Okay, let's start. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. This is the last day in the intermediate level. Today we will talk more about classes and objects. Last week we have seen how to, well, first today we will talk about, sorry, I will mute my phone too. Today we'll talk about constructors and we will talk about not overloading, but we will see the properties, the encapsulation of a class. Previously, last week, we have talked about how to create a class, what is the object-oriented programming, and we have seen how to initiate an object of a specific class. We have talked about the access modifiers, the public and the private words. And we have also seen some members of the class, like a field and a method. So to recap what we had last week, so basically here is a class called person. A class contains a specification of an entity. We have the instance variables or data or fields. And also we have some methods, which are the actions you can perform on those fields. Those methods could be either void or a typed method, which will return you something. And we are also now familiar with how to initiate an object, how to create an object, and how to initialize that object, and how to use a specific method of that object using the dot. We didn't mention the return keyword. We did mention that a return keyword is a must in a typed method, so it will return you a value. But you also can use the return keyword with a void type of method. The first time the compiler hits the first return, it will exit that method. So those two examples you see on the screen are identical. Is there any question about those things before we go on with today? I don't see anyone raising their hands, so that's good. Okay. I will skip the quiz because you don't want quiz. So let's talk about constructors. A constructor is just a special method of a class, which gets automatically invoked whenever an instance of that class is being created. It's like a method. A constructor also contains the collection of instructions that you are execute or you want to execute at the time of initializing or creating that object. It is used to assign initial values to the data members of that class, so the fields. And we have a lot, or not a lot, but a few types of constructors. We will see today we will talk about the default constructor. We will see some parameterized constructors. If there is a problem or something, you can just say it or raise your hand and give you the megaphone. Or you are just enjoying your emojis. Okay. So first is now here you can see we are creating an object of the my account or called my account of the bank account class. And we are initializing that object with the default constructor, and here we are using the two empty parentheses. So now the my account object is an instance of the bank account, and by calling the constructor, then the system will claim enough memory to store such an object, and it will clear all its bytes to zeros. So all the fields will be also initialized with the default values. If you have primitive types like string value variables or integer variables or double, etc. Those will be initialized to the default value as zeros or empty string. So you sometimes want, when you create your object, you want it to have initial values. You want to give it different value than the zeros that it starts with normally, and hence we are defining our own constructor. So this is the syntax of declaring a constructor. So first you would add the access modifier. The access modifier is just the public keyword or a private keyword or a protected or a seal or whatever. What we have learned so far is the public and the private. But for this course, we will only talk about the public because the private constructor is something a little bit advanced. So you would have the public keyword and then the name of that class. So there is no type. So you don't have an integer or void or string or anything. It's just the class name after the access modifier. And then you would have the list of parameters in between two parentheses. Then using a constructor is just simply as you have been using it by declaring a variable of that class and then initializing it with the keyword new. And in those two parentheses, you would add your list of argument if you have any. So an example is this one. We have a parameterized constructor. It has the account number, the account holder as a string, and the balance as double. And inside this constructor, we are assigning those parameters to the fields. So the whole thing is doing is when you create that object of the bank account, like here we have created an object called BA. And then when you initialize that object with a new keyword, you give it the initial values. So those values will be assigned to the fields of that object. So this is just a way you can hand in the extra pieces of information you want to pass to that class when you want the object to be initialized. But you sometimes also want to initialize your fields without passing the information from outside the class. So here we have passed two informations from the outside by using an argument or parameter, but we are also here writing this dot balance equals 0. So we are initializing the balance field in the constructor with a specific value. It could be 0, it could be anything else. And of course, when you use it, you just add the two parameters that you are describing here in the constructor. Last thing is some extra information about constructors. How many times did I say constructor? Now, so we have, like I said, there is no type and there is no void required. So if you try to add a type to a constructor or you write the keyword void, then it wouldn't be considered as a constructor. It would be just a normal method, which is just a little bit confusing. But if you want to create a constructor, you shouldn't add any thing between the name of the class and the access modifier. And also, you always have to use the name of the class. And if there is no constructor specified in your class, then the system will take the default constructor, which is just hidden, or you can create it yourself. But in that constructor is all your variable or your fields will be initialized to the default value. So if you have an object, it will be initialized to null. And if you have primitive types or variables like integers, it will be zeros. String would be empty string, etc. That's it for constructors. Is there any question? We have two people raising their hands. Angela?
Let's see. Can you give a definition for a parameter?
Okay, a parameter is an argument. That's another word of it. It is just a piece of information you use to pass extra information from outside the class to your class. So if you have this class created and all your variables are initialized and or your method are written in that class, you want to assign your, like here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? This is an account number that we have just created. We want to pass this number to that class, and the only way to use it or to pass it is using an argument or a parameter.
So
This thing here in between two parentheses is a parameter. Did that answer your question?
So that's not a variable? It looks like a variable to me.
Well, it is a variable. Yeah, it is a variable. It is called parameter because it is in the definition of a method or a constructor. And it will be also removed from the memory when this end or closed braces is reached. So it's just a normal variable.
Okay. So basically, the parameter is just information that you're going to put into the variable?
Exactly.
Okay.
From outside the class.
Okay. And can you go, like, I think maybe one slide back, maybe 15? I'm not sure which one. So can you show me where the constructor is? I think it should be on this page where I was a little distracted. I'm sorry. We had some things going on in the room, so I kind of missed some of it.
Don't worry. This is the constructor. It's just a normal method with the name of that class.
And that class is
And
outside of this I don't know what to call it, the thing between the two brackets. You taught us scope. It's outside of this scope, so you're bringing it in. It's like another method somewhere else that you bring in. Is that what a constructor is?
Not exactly. I'm not sure what are you referring to as a scope here, because here we are using the scope of this class, which is
bank
from
account.
Here, from this line.
Yeah, from the bank account
to this line.
Yes.
Yes. And this constructor is inside that scope, but it also has its own scope. So it should be initialized inside your class.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
I think you answered the question. It's just me. I'm confused. I might have to do some more outside. I don't know.
Yeah, don't worry. If you are still confused, maybe we will talk about this afterwards, or if you can figure it out by watching the video, would be also
a
nice idea.
Okay, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure. Next question is from Gandolf. I can't give you the megaphone for some reason. I will dismiss your hand. Maybe if you raise your hand again, I will try to give you the megaphone again. Or maybe because he's not here anymore. Yeah, he left. Okay. That's it for constructors. Now let's go for encapsulation. And I was hoping to finish early this week so I can make a nice application from the beginning, because this is the last week in the intermediate. don't look at the title because this is just a different slide. I didn't merge them together in one slide, but yeah. Today, last week, recap, aliasing. Okay, from here. So we will talk about properties, which are the alternatives of getter and setter. And this is, in other words, is a encapsulation. So what does encapsulation mean? Encapsulation in the context of C#, it refers to an object or an object's ability to hide the data and the behavior that are necessary to its user. So the encapsulation enables a group of properties and methods and other members to be considered as a single unit or a single object. So the front-end user or the user of that application wouldn't have to worry about how does it do this and why does it do it this way. They only have to just click a button and receive the information they are asking for. But it's also excuse me, but it's also for the developer to hide the implementation of a class and just expose the way of interacting with that class. So it will be just a sealed single unit. Why would you use such a thing? So the following are just some of the benefits of the encapsulation. Encapsulation is used to restrict access to the members of a class to prevent the user of a given class from manipulating objects in a way that are not intended by the designer. Also, encapsulation hides the internal implementation of the function, so of the function in that class, without affecting the overall function of the system. This is in object-oriented programming. The data is treated as a critical element in program development. So the data is backed closely to the function, and that function operates on the data and protect it from the accident modification from the outside of that class. What we have been using so far and what has been used in Java is to have a variable with the private constructor, private access modifier, and you would have the public method, which one will get the current value and one will set another value to that. But there is another way in C#, and we will see it next slide. We can either use a full property, so we have a full property which requires a private instance of that variable, and it has a set or get part, and you can actually create this very quick using a shortcut. We will see it in the demo. But the syntax of the property is, first you have the access modifier and the type of the instance variable. So you create just a normal variable in that class with the access modifier to be private, of course. And then you would have the access modifier of the property. The type of that property, or is the same the same type of the instance variable. And then you would have the name of that property. In one property, you would have the get and the set in one piece of code. The get, it has an optional access modifier, so it could have a public or private or nothing. And of course, the set is as well. On the right side, you can see a small example. Here we have a class called car, and we have created a variable called speed, and it has the private keyword. And then here we have the property, which is public, of course, the same type, integer. Speed, well, it's just a name, but it preferably to be the same name as the variable you are trying to access. And then in those two curly braces, you would have the get and the set. By default, when you add the get, you after that you open and close the braces, you would have the return keyword to return the value of that parameter, or sorry, of that variable. And after that, you are going to have a set, which will set the value of that variable from the outside. And you will just use this.speed, which refers to this field, and saying equal value. Value is just a variable. You don't have to initialize it. It is there by default. So it's just a small tip. Here is just a comparison between the old system and the new system. So on the left side is the system we were using before, and it is also used by Java. And on the right side is just a simplified version of it used in C#. So the method of get speed is simplified into just one line, get return speed. And the method of set speed and passing a parameter and then assigning that parameter is also simplified into one line. And the first line is just the same. But there is a different version of this. We will see it in a few seconds. How to use the property is just like you are using a normal variable. So first we have created an object, and here we have also created an object. So you can see the differences between the setter and getter method and the property. On the left side, we are using the method of set and get, so we have to use the parentheses. But on the right side, we are using a property, so you can just use it as if it is a variable. You just assign a number to it. And you can also use it as just a normal variable. On the left side, you would have to call the two empty parentheses. Okay, so more advanced behavior of the property is that you can add conditions in those set and get. And also you can create a private set and or private get. Now, why would you create a private set or private get? On the left side, you can see that we have set and set a private. And this is a method which is only accessible from the inside of the class itself. Similar to this behavior, you can create a private setter using the private keyword before the set. And this is also going to be used only from within the class itself. But in the get here, there is no access modifier before it, so it is by default public. So you can access this one from the outside. And here you can see that we have a condition. So we are trying to restrict a value from going under 0, so from going negative. So we can add a small condition. So this is the full property, which requires you to make an instance variable, and then you create the property. But there is a similar way, which is just the auto-implemented property, which doesn't require any variable, just the property. This is the general syntax. It's just the same as the previous one, but without the field. On the right side, you can see that we have a class car, and we just have the property called public integer speed. We have the get and the set. That's it. Now you have a property with an invisible or hidden access modifier, not access modifier, excuse me, field, instance variable. And you can also do the same thing with the private or public with the setter and the getter. The way you use it is like the previous one, you can just assign a variable, assign a value to that variable directly or to that property. So it will behave just as if it is a variable. And you can use it in showing that variable or getting that value from the variable by using it just as normally it would be. Now, one thing here to mention is well, yeah, if here we have the private setter, so it is only accessible from the inside of the class itself. If you try to access it from the outside, it will give you an error. Here at the beginning we have the condition of if a value is larger than or equal to 0, then the value from the outside would be assigned to speed. So if you try to assign a value which is negative, nothing will happen. So this will prevent your code from being manipulated in a way or by accident in a way you don't want that behavior in your application. Last slide is, let me read it because I don't remember. Within the C# community, when possible, use properties, of course. The naming convention, when you have a public setter or getter, you use the uppercase letter, and when you have a private property or setter or getter, you use the lower case letter, which is just a preference. You don't have to follow it, of course. And of course, try to use properties all the time because, yeah, it's safer. KK, if you would like, please to go back to your seats, and otherwise I will have to do something else. Thank you. Okay, if there is a question about the day's lesson, please raise your hand because we are finished and we will go to the demo afterwards. No questions. That's fine. Thank you. And then I will share my screen. Well, we have 30 minutes, so I will try my best to create a good application. Let me share it. Now, if you see yourself, please show me some emoji so I know it works. So it works for 2 people. Does it work for you, Parko? Is that the emoji you have chosen, or you have a question? Oh, okay. That works for everyone. So I will start Visual Studio. Create a new project. Choose Windows Forms. Project name is week 3, 2. I don't know, 2. Week 2 intermediate. Now, I will move the count which is recording a little bit so you can watch the code in a good resolution on YouTube. So today I will create the enhanced version of the bank management system that we were trying to create before. But today I will also try to use constructors and parameters in that in the constructor. So it will be something a little bit difficult in the beginning, but if you're used to it, it will be just fine. I will try my best to explain it, but because we have a strict time, I will not explain everything. So first, the design. I want to show you something new. I'm not sure if it's new for you, but anyway, you can create or add images. We will add some images today. We have the image box or picture box called. Yeah, picture box. Picture box allows you to add an image, of course, as the name says. But my thing that I want to show you is instead of adding the image from here, you can add a resource by going to the the references. And here we have right click on it, add a reference. Wait, not add reference. What was it? And this property, not that one. We have the resources, and then here we have add resource. You can add from an existing file or create your own image. So maybe I will pull up some icons. It is also good to know some skills in designing, because sometimes you are not just developing the code, you also want to design stuff. Let me just add a bank, maybe bank image. Yeah, this looks fine. Save. Where is this place? Just save it. Okay. So I will add it, add the resource, add an existing image. I will navigate to that place, just double click on that image I have included. And then when you go to your designer again, you go to the property, you can choose an image, click on the three dots. You see here in the list is your image, click import. Now you can add the image. From this little bit small on the screen, but we have here a small button. You can change it to auto size or zoom or stretch or like this. It's just maybe for decoration, or you can use it with click. So you can use it as if it is a button. But anyway, just to show you this one, if there is time left, I will try to make something good in the design. But for now, I will use a list box for all my bank accounts. Not this one. List box. And I want a button for creating an account. I want a button for creating a customer. I want a button for withdraw. Maybe I will copy this one so all of them are the same size. Just copy and paste. And maybe I will add also, so those two buttons are creating the account and creating the customer. This will add money, and this will withdraw money. I don't think there is anything else. So we need some text boxes. The first text box is the customer name. Second text box is going to be, I don't know, maybe last name, first name, last name, or an address. I don't care. Just some information of that customer. And we need maybe the balance as a label. Just show a balance right here. We'll add the label here so we know what is this text box for. And a label here for maybe last name or address. I don't know, something. This button is supposed to be create customer account. And this button is to create bank account. So they are different from each other. This one would be withdraw. And this one would be deposit. I didn't unmute you, so if you have something to say while I am typing, you can just unmute yourself and say it. Yeah, so let's give them names for, let me just put this one right here. Names for our codes. So I will go at the top right here. I will say text name, and this is text address. This is button create customer. And this button is create account. This button is for withdraw. This one is for deposit, and this is just a list box, so we'll leave it like this. I want to add a name for this one as a balance. So this is my stupid, very quick design for this application. I don't think we need anything else. Let me see. We add a name. We need a text box so we can actually deposit an amount, right? With a label. This is amount, and this is text amount. Well, this is also for this one, so maybe I will just make it like this. It's stupid, but who cares? Okay, so let's go to the code. We have 45 minutes. So let's create first the customer account. This is going to be a separate class from the bank account. So we have a separation of concerns. This is just a concept that you should be familiar with when you go to the object-oriented programming. So each class is supposed to do one thing and one thing only. Here we have a customer, so we will create a class for that customer. Right-click, add class customer. And of course, we will make it public. So first, we don't have anything, but we have the private, not private, the initial constructor, which is written hidden for you, from you. So I want to create a customer, but I want to pass those values, the name and the address, as the initial values of that customer. So I have a property, which is the encapsulation we talked about today. And this is the quick shortcut you can use is PROP and then double press tab. And then voila, you have everything written. So I have the name, which is a string. And then press tab. I have this is going to be name. Let me create another property prop. This is going to be also a string, small s. String, and the name would be address. So now I have a private field hidden. I have a public get and public set, and I have a property all in one line, which is something very nice. I will create the constructor, which is the one for the customer. So I will say public customer, then the same name of the class. And then here in two parentheses, we will add the parameters that I want to pass from the outside. So what I want to pass is the initial value of the name and the initial value of the address. And because those are strings, I want to pass a string. So I say string name and string address. See, I used a small letter at the beginning so I can differentiate this one from this one. And here I will just simply assign capital name equal name, or you can use this dot name. So this name is referring to the property, and this name is referring to the parameter which is coming from the outside. I will also use this dot address, the equal address. Well, this is one way. You can also create a constructor using, I believe there is something here. Yeah, when you click on the light bulb, there is a generate constructor. You can click on generate constructor. You can just select the properties that you want to add in your parameters and just click OK. How easy is that? Now everything is done. I will save. I will close this class. I don't need it anymore. Or maybe I will just add another method which will get the name, return the name. Oh, well, no, I can use the property, of course. So I will create another class for the bank. I will just go from here, new file. Why is like this? Okay, C# class. Wait, what? Yeah, I didn't see the add in the beginning. Anyway, you can also use the shortcut. Add another class. I forgot to rename it. Let me rename it very quick. This will be bank account. Now, in bank account, I will have the initial balance. So it will be property of double. And this will be balance. Balance. Okay. And we have an owner of the bank account, of course. But now, if you want to create an owner with a string, well, that sucks. But because we have a customer object, we can create an owner of the type customer. So we can create a property of the type customer and say here owner. So what we have seen here is that you can create properties of not just the primitive types, the double, string, integers, etc., but also from objects or list or generics, a lot of other things. So this object of bank account, now it has another object inside it, which is the owner. And in the constructor, I want to pass, generate constructor, I want to pass the balance and the owner. Well, that's all. I also, maybe I will say public void withdraw double amount. I will say here if amount is larger or equal to balance minus amount, then say balance minus equal amount. If you don't understand this one, then you should go to the basic level. Let's go for the public withdraw deposit. We have void deposit, and also the same thing. And we want to check if the deposit is a positive number. So if amount is larger than 0, then say balance plus equal amount. Also, if you don't understand this one, not sure. And let's get the total info. Public string. Let me use the small s. String get all info. And here I will return the owner name, address, and the balance. So how can I access this owner or this object? First, make sure always to check if this owner is initialized before trying to access it. Otherwise, you will break your code. So first, you say if owner is null, then return, which will just get out of that function. Or you can say if owner is not null, then continue do your stuff right here. If it's null, just don't do anything else. But let me use it my way. So if owner is null, which means that if this owner doesn't have any value or it hasn't been initialized, then I want to return an empty string because I have to return something. Otherwise, this is the otherwise. Also, one thing is if you have only one line after the if condition, you don't have to add the open and the closed curly braces. You can just omit them because it's one line. But if you have more than one line, then you have to use those. Let me just put them there for your reference. Anyway,
Mohammed,
yes.
Your voice is starting to sound waverly, or kind of.
Okay, I will enter.
Ninja.
Uh-huh.
Now, do you still see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's much better. Thank you.
Thank you for telling me. So here I will say return the owner is plus owner dot name plus address is owner dot address, and of course I can break it into 2 lines or multiple, plus the balance is balance. Well, that's it. Now let's use it. So if I click on the create customer, I expect to create a customer, and when I click on create bank account, I expect that customer to be sent to this one. Or if you have a list of customers separated from the list of bank accounts, you can choose a customer and then send it. Excuse me. You can send it to the bank. Yeah, maybe we can do that. Well, 4 minutes, I don't think we can do that. So in the create customer, let me just create just a bank account, which will create the customer and the bank account. Faster. So I have the name and the address. Double click on the create account. I will say owner, or what was it, customer, my customer equal new customer. Now if I open the curly parentheses, or not curly, just the parentheses, I see the list of parameters that I have to pass. So previously I used the empty ones, but now I can't use that one. I have to pass a couple of parameters, which is just the name and the address. And we can get those from this and from this. So let's say string name equal text dot, not the address, text name dot text, and string address equal text address dot text. And here I can just pass the name and the address. So I created that customer first, and then I will create the bank account. So I say bank account, my bank account, or just bank account, doesn't matter, equal new bank account. And now I have to pass two things. First is the balance, and then the owner. So the balance is something you will get from this, which I have to add here as string bal equal balance. What was it? Text balance, text amount dot text, and then you have to convert it to double. Let me call it amount or balance, doesn't matter. Equal convert dot to double bal. So now I have a balance in double. I can pass it right away. So the first thing is the balance, so I can say balance. And the second thing is the owner of the type customer. So I will give it this one. So my customer will go right here, and the semicolon. Now this is being created and will be deleted at this line. So I have to create a list of all the bank accounts that I have. I will create that list in a bigger scope. So I will go in the scope of the form, or in the class of the form. I will say list. And now I also can create a list of bank accounts. I will say my accounts equal new list of bank accounts. This is not something new to you. It's something we used before. And I will add this bank account to this list. So I will say dot add bank account. Now this won't be deleted anymore. It will be saved in the list here. Now the only thing left is to show it on this guy. So I will say list box dot items dot add bank account dot get all info. Save, run. Was it difficult? I don't think so. So the name, Mohammed, of course, the address in Earth, and the amount of money I have is -5. Create a bank account. It's too small. Okay, let me adjust the design. Those guys have to move. I hope this is enough. Mohammed, I am living in X, Y, and Z, and the amount is 500. Create bank account. So it says now the owner is Mohammed and the address is X, Y, and Z, and the balance is 500. I withdraw 200. I didn't update, I didn't do those buttons yet, and still need to add this one here. But you get the idea that I can get the balance of the account using properties, and I also can assign an object into another object. Now, if I add minus something into the account, what will it says? Yeah, we didn't check for this, but we checked for the withdraw and the deposit. But what you can do is actually using that. So instead of using this checking right here, we can just remove it from here and add it in the set. So it will go right here. And this will be value now. So in general, this will look like this. Let me just make it look a little bit more readable, I hope. Of course, I need to add something here. I will say if value is larger or equal to balance minus value, then balance minus equal value. Well, it's not minus, so it has to be either minus or plus, because we deposit too. Let me think. I don't think we can do this in the set and the get. Yeah, we can do this in here. Sorry. So what we can do is check right here, or we can check right here when we create. I would say if balance is less than 0, then balance would be equal to 0. Else is this one. Let's try this one. Oops, I forgot the capital B. Now, Mohammed, who lives in D and has the amount of minus 100, I can create, and now it says 0, it doesn't say minus 100, which is good. And the deposit and the withdraw are just calling those methods, so you can just go to the form, withdraw, saying, well, you have to check which item list box.items selected item. Yes. And then when you select an item from this list, you would select a specific bank account, and then you want to deposit or withdraw the money from that account. So I have to go through all the lists I have and see which one did you select. So of course I will use either a for loop or a for each loop. I will use a for each item in my account. I will say if item.getAllInfo is equal to the selected item dot toString, then it is the right one we have chosen. I will say item dot withdraw, and then we pass the amount which we didn't yet convert. And of course a return at the end. Let me see it works or not. Oops, forgot the amount. Damn it. Okay, let me create another one. Now I can select one of them. I would say withdraw 20. I should have updated either on one of those so I can see. But I won't spend more time on it. I will just show you the breakpoint if I didn't talk about this one. A breakpoint will allow you to debug your code, which is very useful if you are trying to see what is going on, if there is something wrong or something. So withdraw, now it will stop right here, and they have the yellow arrow on the left side. Now is trying to access the for each, and it will stop and wait for you. So now if you hover over anything, you can see the current value of that variable. So my account, it has the count of 2. The item here is not yet initialized. And then I can go forward with my application using those buttons at the top, or you can use the F10 or F11. So F10, it will move forward, thing by thing, line by line, compare, go to the next loop, one by one, go to this one, compare, and go outside. Well, it didn't find anyone who is the same as this one for some reason. But that is out of the scope of today, I think. So we have demonstrated the creation of a constructor using parameters, and we also created an object inside another object. Use your imagination, try to create a nicer application of a bank management system, nicer than this one. That's it all for today. Thank you so much for coming and for watching this, and I hope you have a nice